Okay, I'm back, and I think we're gonna read this book that I found called Will You Take Me? You know what? I think I'm just gonna put this in another video, and then I'm gonna put the other. I think if I have a new story, I'm not gonna put two stories in one video. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm just gonna put this in a different video. But this book is called Will You Take Me? And the description goes as follows. Marceline is relaxing on a tree branch one cool August night until she looks down to see a horrible yet amazing sight that would probably change her life for eternity. Finn Celine, for all you crazy fans out there. P.S. Finn is 19 years old in this, and it will have Marshall Lee, the Vampire King, in it. Swearing in later chapters, I think, and future romances. Okay, cool. This is a short chapter to start with, so I'm gonna read the first chapter, and then I might read more, or I might just. I think it's getting late. So it's 3:40 right now, so I might not continue reading after this. We'll see. But pretty sure that my mom's gonna have a meeting after work, so I might do some more recordings while she's in her meeting, and then I think I'm going to start recording early tomorrow, and for Friday I'm gonna do some extra stuff. So I'm gonna start recording around noon instead of like 2:30 to 3 o'clock. I need to start recording earlier so that I'm not like constrained by time so much. And then like when I'm done recording, I'm just done recording. And if I want to continue recording, I can continue recording. Because I'm pretty sure if I started around noon, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be recording for like 4 hours. Who knows? I might be. Anyway, copyrights belonging to who in case anything happens in the future. Adventure Time names, and then it just says who owns the story and stuff like that. Wait. Chapter 1 The Shock of the Proposal. It was a cool night in the middle of August, the 24th being the date. Trees stood in the darkness, their thin, long fingers of branches filled with green leaves stretching out to the midnight blue sky, free of clouds but sprinkled with small glowing stars. There was a deer trail matted to the dark ground, their little creepy footprints stamped onto the ground permanently. It was a damp forest, filled with rotten trees with their summer leaves, the moon shining its colorful light down to the dark forest below. Footsteps were heard softly into the still night on the deer trail, which made Marceline poke her pointy ears up. She had her hair up in a messy, long black ponytail, strands of it spurting around her head as if she had gotten up just now. She wore a gray tank top underneath a blue jacket, the color of the sky, but looked eerily under the moon's light. She had on a pair of ripped blue jeans and a pair of black Converse. Her pale skin looked sickly in the moonlight, but she didn't care. She was sitting on a thick branch, thick enough to hold 10 of her, staring at the moon with her thoughtful glare, and thinking about Finn until a branch snapped. She blinked once and looked down at her hands, but closed her eyes and let out a breath of air. She then opened them again, her eyes black as night. She hid behind the tree and tried her best to blend in while squeezing her black irises shut and then turned invisible. She took an inaudible breath of air and looked down 20 meters below her to only see a 19-year-old Finn walking by himself. His cute bear hat gone a long time ago. He was almost 6.5 feet tall, his bulky military frame looking perfect against him. He wore a blue shirt with a green jacket, a pair of black jeans, and his original green pack, a pair of blue Converse snuggling his feet from the cool air. His hair was a golden color, but had a few brown streaks in it. Possibly dirt, she thought to herself. But it was so golden you could cut it and sell it for 1,000,000 shillings, or whatever money they had in those days. He wore his new natural attire of clothes and shoes, but the only thing that threw her off was his hair, and his skin. The clothes didn't matter much to her. A bright pale color, so bright that he probably took the moon's color away. But he had muscles, but they looked like lumps of cream of wheat. So pale. Finn, what's he doing here all by himself? She mumbled under her breath, and glided down the tree without making any noise at all, and appeared beside the tree that was 5 feet to his right. She peered around the corner and saw that he was possibly looking down to the ground, but she couldn't see his face. But he did have his demon blood sword with him, though, clenched tightly in his right hand, that it had made his knuckles turn white. It shined brightly in the eerie light, its light shining at the tree beside him, and making the spot look pale like Marceline himself. She bit her bottom lip softly, and appeared back to normal, which made Finn stop dead in his tracks and looked up at the sky, his head held high. "Marceline, I know you're there," she stated softly, slowly closing his eyes, which made his face look blissfully and eerily peaceful. She only sighed, since he had probably spotted her in the darkness because of her pale skin. She kicked up her feet to float, and slowly floated out into the light, only stopping a foot away from Finn while 2 feet off the ground. He took a deep breath and let it out, opening his eyes and turning to the vampire before him. Softly she had gasped and floated a few inches away from him. Not only was his hair and skin throwing her off the facial cliff she was lingering from, but his eyes was the one that had her completely hopeless. A dark shade of red, almost taking a blackish hue. Oh, Glob, who did this far-fetched, horrible thing to her cute little Finny boy? Whoever it was, they were going to pay, in the Nightosphere, with her own bare hands if she had to. Finn, she rasped, surprised that her voice was thick with emotion but sounded dry. Who did this to you? Why do you care, Marce? He growled, lifting up the tip of his sword slightly, only for Marceline to back away further to the darkness. She lifted her arms up in defense, but approached him more carefully. "Because you're my Finny boy. Don't you remember what we used to do together?" she said, a look of hope in her black irises, hoping that Finn can use her help to change back to normal. If she can. If she could. "Yeah, I remember, Marceline. But you should leave. I just want to be left alone," he said, turning to the earthly dark trail ahead of him. "Leave? I don't want to, Finn. You need help. Let me." She reached out her hand to reach his, but he grabbed hers before she was close to him, making her wince. "No, Marceline. This is permanent. Forever. For eternity, if possible," he said, and let go of her hand, dropping his to his side. What? Permanent? She couldn't believe her ears. She thought it was one of his tricks, but he didn't show any sign of enthusiasm or play. He could be serious. But his hand, it felt cold to her, cold as ice. And now she might be crazy. Wait, that can't be right. Wait, it can't be. He just can't be. He'll lose his life like Marceline lost hers. Finn, Marceline stated, floating closer to him. Are you? Uh, she closed her mouth in a tight line. She just can't bring herself to say it. What, Marceline? He questioned her, looking at her thoughtfully. Are you a vampire? She questioned, looking into his eyes. His eyes showed signs of regret which told her the truth. She couldn't help but float back a few inches. Finn, how could you do this to yourself? She screamed, her eyes slowly turning red. Because it wasn't for me, it was for you. He screamed back, flinging his sword to the ground and grabbing her by the forearms. Finn, let me go. She struggled to get free, but cried out when he brought her closer, their faces only a few inches from each other. Marceline, just listen to me, he said softly, his voice smooth like hot velvet against her ears, which made her perk up and stop her fleeing actions. Marcy, I did it for us, so we could be together forever, he stated, looking at her, his eyes pleading as his voice, waiting for an answer of some kind. She didn't say anything, but only stared at him with astonishment, hatred, and anger, but also hope too. Marceline, I love you. I really do, and I think we should be together. I don't know if you love me the same way, but I did this for us, so I can be with you, and we can have each other for eternity. She just stared at him, forming the words in her head. This is it then, but at least she has someone to talk to other than Hambo who can actually respond to her. Finn, I love you too. I've lived long enough to figure things out, but you don't know how long I've waited for someone to tell me those words in all of my life, she said, floating up to a strong figure of his head. She stopped before him and took a deep breath, and softly gave Finn a kiss on the lips. His lips were cold, but she didn't care. Their lips locked into one another, and soon they both melted into the kiss, Finn grabbing Marceline close to him. He opened his mouth for her, and she took his tongue for granted. Their tongues worked against one another, while Marceline grabbed a handful of his shirt. Soon the kiss ended, which had probably taken up all of their energy because they were panting afterwards. So? Finn asked, getting his breath back and standing up straight once again. Marceline gulped and looked up at him with a raised eyebrow. So what? Marceline, will you marry me and take me as your vampire king? He said, getting on one knee and holding his hand out, a golden ring between his thumb and first finger. Marceline gasped, and as any other girl would do, put their hands to their mouths and started crying. Finn, yes, of course I would, because we were made for each other, she said through her sobbing and hugged Finn by his neck. He only chuckled and lifted her up bridal style. All right, off to your house, he said, and started walking the way he was originally going. Wait, what about Jake? She questioned. He's taking care of his puppies and unicorns, he stated, looking straight ahead. I'll tell him later. Then, what about your adventures? Oh, don't worry about that. I had it all planned out. With awesome sunscreen. He smiled and looked down at her. She only giggled and snuggled up to Finn, which made him chuckle, but only made a mad and very upset Marshall Lee growl even deeper in his throat. I will get her, Finn, because she is made for me, he stated, and turned around to disappear off into the night. Okay, well, that was a really short chapter. Like, the books that I found, they have pretty short chapters so far. I'm wondering when I'll find a book with longer chapters that I want to read. Anyway, I love each and every one of you guys. Please don't forget to always be yourself. And I will see you in the next video. Bye. Oh, wait, you are valid. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.